without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tim Pugh.
Yay!
My name's Tim Pugh. I've been kind of active with the local issues and the local option sales tax for a few years now. A lot of you might remember me from 3 years ago when I opposed that local option sales tax. At the time, I just seen the city really had no plan, no vision, really was not working much towards flood recovery. They wanted the money for homes. The money went elsewhere. It went to pet projects of the city. It went to libraries. It went to, I believe, the new animal control, the public works. Basically, just a bunch of pet projects is what I like to call them that the city has spent their money on. They used the flood as a chance to get money to pay for projects that downtowns wanted for years. And I see this as being the same. Their only real plans they have is for downtown, a revitalized downtown, including a removable flood wall, which we've seen with how they handled the library in 2008. We can't trust that they can have the flood wall up in time. It's going to take a lot longer than a few hours that would it took to clear our library to put that wall up. Plus, it takes continuous maintenance. The city, I mean, if you look at the preferred plan, which they're saying they may use, but they're not saying they have a plan, it involves everything from quote-unquote signature streets and parks to basically walking trails and ski trails, but nothing really hardcore on flood protection. Plus, it will leave large areas of the city unprotected. So I'm encouraging everyone to vote no because the city does not have a solid plan. They do not have a solid track record on trying to protect the city, which they could have spent the last 3 years working on. Instead, we end up with a $130 million failed hotel with convention center.
Tim.
Yes.
Why has this the first public forum we've had on this local option sales tax on this vote?
That's a good question. I would have expected the Gazette to step forward. However, I do have a feeling after their handling of the last local option just 10 months ago, with their donation and their tight-knitness with the chamber and with the Vote Yes crew, that they do not want to see a forum. They got beat up pretty hard last time at the forum with Mr. Conklin and everyone else who was involved.
On our side.
Yep, on our side. And I think they do not want to go public with what they see as a plan. And I think there's most people, such as the Gazette, who normally, or Source Media, who handles the forums, chose not to get involved with it simply because they did not want to see their friends and allies with the Vote Yes side in the chamber get beat up again and maybe cost them another election.
Tim, I've heard you talk about this before, but is there any reason to believe that dredging the river would be effective?
I actually think dredging the river would actually have some effect. One, we would be removing a lot of the silt and sediments that's on the bottom of the river, which would not be, which would take that out. But instead of raising the walls or the banks like you would with the levee system, you would actually be lowering the floor of the river, which in fact would kind of do the same thing. I think it would also allow the river to breathe more. If you go down by the landfill just south of downtown, just south of Czech Village, it is so full of sediment running off from the compost facility and off the landfill itself that the river bottom is coming up. It's very shallow. It's very hard for water to meander through. So if the city would actually contract with a quarry or something like that, they can actually have the river dredged out and lower the base and make the water flow more freely. And I think it would actually be somewhat effective in helping to curb future flooding issues because we would be lowering the floor, allowing the water to flow more freely through Cedar Rapids instead of the bottleneck that we But again, I'm not an engineer, so it is something that I think the Corps of Engineers needs to look at. But they did mention that it would be one option in their report that they put out last year, I believe it was. My closing thoughts is 10 months ago we voted. May 10th, 2011, we voted no. The city and the chamber basically come back and they come up with a way to put it back on the ballot, costing us another roughly $80,000 for a special election. They could have actually held it on primary day, but they wanted a low turnout. We voted no, they didn't listen. The same people who is involved in the last sales tax is running this sales tax. They are not grassroots. They are the businesses. The businesses do not pay sales tax like you and me do. What little that they do pay is a write-off for them. They do not want to pay it. So it is cheaper for them to make you pay for their flood protection, for their grand schemes, things like the convention center, things like the hotel, things like the amphitheater. So we're here 10 months later. We need to tell the city, no. You need to come up with an actual plan and bring the plan to the people. Right now it just says east and west. What on the east and west side? They can call the amphitheater flood protection, pay $500,000 out of the current loss and say, we provided you west side flood protection, and walk away and spend all the money on the east side, which would not surprise me. The east side gets everything in Cedar Rapids, and it is wrong. We need a plan. The city needs to come forth with a plan, and they actually need to present it to the people and let us determine the plan. And from there, we can determine paying. But if Westside Protection is about $150 million, we've dropped $130 on the hotel and convention center. How much more have we wasted? We basically gave away the old library location to True North, the city's insurance company. And we overpaid them millions of dollars for their old property. That money could have easily gone to rebuild the old library, expand it, improve it, and start building flood protection. The city did none of it. What is more important, a hotel or flood protection protecting people and the property in Cedar Rapids? Obviously, to the city, it is a hotel. We need a responsible government. We need a transparent government. And that is also another reason why we need to vote no.